This example asks us to calculate the mean, median, and mode. As we go to do this, the first thing we're going to do is put our information in ascending order. Ascending order is from smallest to biggest. So we're looking at 1. And I often check off a number once I've used it so that I know I don't have to use it again. Then I look and I see I have 4. I have another 4. I have an 8. And a 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. So, first thing we're going to do is calculate the mean. To calculate the mean, and there's our symbol for mean, we're going to add everything together. So 1 plus 4 plus 4 plus 8 plus 9, and divide it by the number of numbers we added. So we added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 together, so we are going to divide by 5. When we go to do this, we get 5.2. Our next one is the median. Median is our middle number when we're in order from smallest to biggest. If there's an odd number, it'll be a number exact. If it's an even number, we will have to combine the two numbers together and divide by 2 because we need the halfway point between them. So if we take a look at our list, here is our list. One of the ways I do it is with my fingers. So these two go together, these two go together, leaves me with that 4 in the middle. So this 4 here would be our median. So under median, we can just put down 4. Our next one asks us for the mode. Mode is the number or numbers that occur the most. So if we look at this one, we have one number that occurs twice, that is the 4. Everybody else occurs only 1. So 4 occurs the most. As a result, 4 would be our mode. Last but not least is the range. Range is the largest minus the smallest. So if we look at this, we have 9 as our biggest number, 1 is our smallest. So 9 minus 1 equals 8. That range is not that there are 8 numbers, but that there are 8 spots on the number line between the smallest number and the biggest number. Here's another example asking us to find the mean, median, mode, and range. Again, we're going to write the numbers in ascending order, so from smallest to largest. So the smallest number I see is 13. Then we have 24, 35, 57, 68, and last but not least is 97. So there are our numbers from smallest to biggest. Our mean, there's our symbol for the mean. We are going to add them together. And we're going to take that and divide by the number of numbers we added. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going to divide by 6. And when we go and do that, we get 49. Okay, median. Recall median is our middle number in our list when ordered from smallest to largest. So if we look at it, these two go together, these two go together. These two go together, which means that our median is going to happen between these two numbers. It's going to happen right there. As a result, we're going to take these two and use them to help us find our median. So for our median, we're going to add those two numbers together. We're going to divide it by 2. So we're looking for the halfway point between the two numbers. And when we do that, we get 46. As our answer. In this case, Looking at our numbers, there is no number that repeats or no number that happens more often than others, which means that we have no mode. And that is possible. Remember, mode is a number that repeats the most often within the data. Lastly, we have the range. Range is our largest minus our smallest. So looking at it, our largest number is 97. Our smallest is 13. 97 minus 13 is 84. Now, we weren't dealing with 84 numbers, so if we look at our list, there's definitely not 84 numbers there. But what this 84 tells us is that we are looking at there being 84 spots on the number line between the smallest number and the largest number. This example asks us to find the mean, median, and standard deviation using the graphing calculator. You can only find the standard deviation using a graphing calculator, and you can only find the mode by hand. As we go to look at it, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to hit the stats button, and in the edit, we're going to hit edit, and into L1 you're going to put all of the numbers. And once you've entered the number, put enter after it to move down to the next one, and keep doing that until you have the entire list in your calculator. Once you've got that happening, so there's our list. Once you have the entire list in, to find our mean, this is the symbol that we use for the mean. And when we write it, this is the symbol the calculator uses for the mean. To do this, we're going to hit the stats button. We're going to go sideways to calculate, hit enter, and then hit enter again. And there you can see the mean is right at the very top, 67.375. Okay. Looking also at this screen, we can see our standard deviation symbol, which is right there. There is our standard deviation, and we usually write the standard deviation to 2 decimal places. So we're going to write that to 2 decimal places. Most of the time it doesn't tell us where to round it to, so we will just automatically round it to 2 decimal places. So under standard deviation we have 16.35. So there's our standard deviation. The last thing that our list asks us for is the median. So this med is what we see on our calculator. It's asking us for our median. Now, we don't see that currently on our screen right now, so we're going to hit the down arrow until we find it, and there it is, right there. So we're getting 71.5 as the median. Mrs. Summer gave a worksheet out of 10. The marks for her class of 30 students were as follows. Use your graphing calculator, calculate the mean, median, mode, with a reminder to do it by hand, and standard deviation. Now we could list all 30 of these scores into the L1 and calculate the values that way, or we can use what's called a frequency table. And when we do that, we put the values along the first column and then how often it happens in the second. So as we go to do this, starting from smallest to largest, the smallest number we have is 0. Looking, no, I don't see a 1, I don't see a 2, I see a 3, then a 4, there's a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we have all of our values there. We can then use tickies to figure out how often each of them happen. You can either work across or you can work it down. So we have a 3, and I tend to put a ticky check beside the number once I've used it so that I know where I have, especially since we have 30 values here. It's going to take me a little bit. If I stop, I'm going to need to remember where I left off. So as we go through and fill in our frequency table, Okay. And when you hit 5, you can either put a line through it like this, or you could just put another one beside. I often do the line through so that we have groups of 5 for easy counting. Choice is yours as you do it, because you're the one who's going to have to count your frequency table values up. Okay, so there we go as far as these values go. At this stage now, we need to know what these value numbers actually are, so we can just count them up. So we have 2, 2, 1, 3, 2, 6, 4, 5, and 5. As we go to look at our calculator, these values are going to go into our L1 table. These values are going to go into our L2. So we get there exactly the same way we did in the previous example. We're going to hit the Stat button, hit Enter on Edit, put our L1 values in, making sure that we hit Enter after each one, and then we put in our L2 values. Again, hitting Enter after each one. Okay, so once we have those in, at this stage now, things are going to go a little bit differently in our calculator. To calculate, we're still going to go Stat, over to Calculate, and hit the var1, and it's occurring down here. This is a leftover from the last screen. If this bothers you, you can hit Clear so that the screen's cleared before you start, and then go over and hit your Calculate. Now, we want to tell it to use the L1 and the L2. If you look at your calculator, here at just above 1 in yellow, we have an L1, and just above 2 in yellow, we have an L2. So to get those, we need to hit the second button first. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit second 1. We're then going to hit the comma button. Here's where the comma button's located, so we're going to hit the comma. And so notice we have L1 comma, and then we're going to go second 2. So what we see is one var stats, L1 comma L2. And what you've told it to do is use both the L1 and the L2. We're then going to hit Enter, and there is our values. So we get a mean of 66.86. We have a standard deviation here at 2.72. To find the median, we're going to need to use our down arrows till we find the MED. And there it is. Median is 7. And then last but not least is our mode. Mode, we're going to need to use our do by hand. So if we go and look, remember mode is the number that happens the most. This tells you how many times each number happens. So if we look at it, this one's saying 7 happens 6 times. That would be the most number that happens the most. So we get 7 there. This example asks us to examine the tables below and asks which appears to have the data with more spread. Now, it's 2 tables. Here's where our tables separate. Now, remember, as they're more spread out, that would mean that there is more information near the outside edges and less near the middle. So if I look at the middle, comparing the middle section of these two, this looks like it has less values than this one does. This also looks like it has more values on the outside edges than this one does. So that would mean we have more values on the outside, less on the inside, in the middle, which would be more spread out. Here we have more information right around the middle, less on the outside, which would be less spread out. So it looks like set A is more spread out. It then asks us to predict which has the greatest standard deviation. Now, if we think about our standard deviations, under the definitions for standard deviation, it does say that the greater the standard deviation, the more spread out the information is. The smaller the standard deviation, the less spread out it is. So if we're looking for the greatest, that would be the one that's more spread out. And we've already said that we think that set A is more spread out. What I would like you to do at this stage is I would like you to put the value in L1 and the frequency in L2 for data set A. Go through and calculate your mean and your standard deviation. Once you have those values, I want you to go to your set B, put your values into L1, your frequency into L2, and go through and calculate the set of information for set B. And once you've done those two, decide which one does indeed have the bigger standard deviation. So at this point, I want you to pause the video and go through and do those calculations. So here are the answers. We're looking at 3 and 1.37 for data set A. We're looking at a mean of 3 for B and 1.05 for standard deviation. So as we go to compare it, this has a smaller standard deviation, which means it's less spread out. This one has a bigger standard deviation, which means it is indeed more spread out. So set A is more spread out.